What up guys, Sweetchins here, and today I want to talk about Telltale Games. You know, the company every gamer loves because they create the all-time classic, probably one of the best games ever, The Walking Dead Season 1. It was amazing. Currently doing Season 2, there's episodes being released now, and they're doing The Wolf Among Us as well. If you haven't played them games, check them out because they are fucking brilliant. The two other games they're also going to be doing is a Game of Thrones episodic game, and also doing Tales of the Borderlands, which is Telltale's game on the Borderlands franchise. But although this sounds really good, I mean the Game of Thrones one I'm so psyched for, but are they doing a bit too much? A lot of people are complaining, saying, because Telltale, if you don't know, release their games like the ones they're doing now, like Walking Dead, The Wolf Among Us, they're released in episodes, and lately they've been coming out like every 2 months maybe between each one. So you play one episode, which could be like an hour, 2 hours long, and then you have to wait another 2 months. In total, it's normally about 5 episodes. So it's about £20 for the full game, but it spreads out over the year. And everyone's complaining that they want The Wolf Among Us and The Walking Dead Season 2 finished first before Telltale even begins moving on to Tales of Borderlands and Game of Thrones. And I can kind of agree. Like, I played The Walking Dead Season 2 episode, I can't even remember how long ago that was now, it's a few months, and that's the thing, every time then I get onto the next episode and play it, I have to recap what happened. Don't worry, they show a little thing saying what did happen, but you need to get in the zone again, and don't get me wrong, you get into it really quick, because Telltale always have great writing, great characters. It's quite easy to slip back into the world and that. But just the waiting, every episode always hangs on a cliffhanger, and that's more of a personal thing that gets on my nerves. Although, you know, it's a fantastic thing. Then I'm like, oh shit, when's the next episode coming? And I've got to wait like another 2 months. But the idea was, it was kind of every month you'd either get The Walking Dead Season 2 or you get The Wolf Among Us. So month by month it would happen. But there's recently been delays with them, and yeah, and we're just left sort of dangling at the moment. But with creating these new games, yeah, everyone's complaining and that. And I can kind of understand it for a few reasons, but I think what they want to kind of do, because it's not, you know, all the same team working on every single game. But I think what personally I think they're trying to do is, if they release Game of Thrones and Borderlands game, then it's kind of like they're saying, we want you to buy all 4 of the games, like Walking Dead, Wolf Among Us, Game of Thrones and Borderlands, because if you buy all 4, and because they're all releasing episodes, then when you play one episode, it's not long for the other game's episode to come out in between that. So there's like a constant flow of Telltale games going on, and I think that's what they're trying to strive for. It's a bit cheeky in some ways, because they're £20 each, about £80 right there. But you are getting a good quality games. It's not the worst thing, I think, but I can understand people want to get the other game finished first before they get onto this, but I personally think that's what they're trying to do. Now the thing with the game Tales from Borderlands, look, I'll throw up some screenshots right now. And don't worry, the screenshot looking amazing and that, but the problem I have is Borderlands game was never really a story driven game. There was a story to it, but you never really played it for that. It was all more so the gameplay element of it, collecting guns and just causing mayhem and everything like that. That game was much more for people who wanted the gameplay rather than they did the story. And Telltale games, let's be honest and brutal here, they really don't have any gameplay. It's just basically some quick time events. You walk around, click on some stuff, and you press some buttons for options on what you want the character to say. And that is all it is. But I'm not slating them in any way, because it's a fantastic story. And the reason you play Telltale games, to be honest, is the stories and to make choices and stuff. Whereas Borderlands, where that was a gameplay game, it just makes you wonder how well it will do as a story-driven game, because it was never really known for that. But if anyone can pull it off, it's Telltale. You know, they've earned trust loads of times. And a Game of Thrones game, they've got George R.R. Martin's personal assistant helping them with that game. I think that'll be a brilliant game, because you know, you read the books for the story, you don't play it. And it hasn't really been a good Game of Thrones game. Well, there was another one, but nah. And you know, you've got the series coming out, and I think it takes place before. Yeah, I think it's before all these events happen, so they can kind of do what they want with that. But that's what Telltale kind of do at the moment. They kind of take existing franchises and put their work in on it, which is all good and all, but I think people would like to see a full-fledged game with just them creating their own stuff, because they can obviously create amazing characters. I know they're using this world as a basis of whatever franchise they're doing, but all the characters they create are all original on their own, so they could pull it off quite easily. But what I'd like to see from the Borderlands game is like have gameplay in it. Like that screenshot I just showed where the guy's cutting off the other guy's arm, nice and brutal. But we need a bit more gameplay. Because Borderlands is a very, like I said, well-known game for gameplay, and we need get better gameplay. Game of Thrones one, just use the same formula using with The Walking Dead and Wolf Among Us, but it's kind of like how long can you use that formula before it starts to become stale, gamers catch on, and they just become bored because they feel like they're just playing like a film really. So yeah, what I'd like to see, just risk it a bit, with Borderlands, just add a bit of gameplay. But I know it's kind of hard because you've got it in episodes, it's like what can you do, but you can try something different each episode. That's the thing, because people always have a favourite episode, it doesn't all have to be the same. But you can just try little different things and just, take a bit of risk. Got 4 games now. Do we really want 4, of the same gameplay thing? Just try and vary it up. I think Borderlands, if that's what they're doing, because I can't think of a really good reason why you would pick Borderlands as a Telltale game that you'd want to make. Only other than it's got a huge fan base and loads of people love that game, but knowing Telltale doing it, you're not going to get the same Borderlands experience as the other games offered, unless they're trying to sound different with their gameplay, which I really do hope they are, because like I said, got the Wolf Among Us and The Walking Dead already, and they play very similar but different stories, different characters, different atmosphere in that. So with the other two, why not just add something a little bit different? Game of Thrones, I can see them using the same formula because it's that sort of game which is it's a very story driven experience. Game of Thrones, TV series, the books, so it's hard to imagine what gameplay they would try and implement in that. But with Tales from Borderlands, or Tales of Borderlands, whatever it's called, that game is hugely known for gameplay. Surely they'd be trying something new with their gameplay, because if you don't, people are already starting to get a bit like, nah, it doesn't sound interesting to me, why do I want to play that? What I'd like more, I know it's in episodes and it's very expensive and time consuming to make these games, but you'd like them a bit more consistent. One every month, I won't complain, but when it runs over that, it gets a bit like, nah, and you might just forget about it and leave it, because you have to pay the full price up in front, which you don't mind, but when it's coming out over long times, it can get a bit frustrating. So the only thing I could advise offer is to say come out a bit more often. But if you do get all 4 games, I'm still going to buy these games. So if they do release episodes consistently like that, and you get one from each game every so often, then I'm cool with that, because it'll Telltale, it's the same experience. But I just hope it's not the same formula for Tales and Borderlands, because I just don't really see that working too well. And I just don't want Telltale getting a bit, I'm not saying they are, but getting arrogant, thinking anything we touch turns to gold. Because they would end up falling. They'd end up crashing, like people catch on to stuff that's the same, over and over. Look at Call of Duty. When Call of Duty Modern Warfare come out, it was like one of the best games ever. Everyone loved that. Number 2 come out, okay, same thing, but I'm still enjoying it. Next one. Everyone now hates it. It's just a hated game now. So try and do something different, hopefully. And yeah, but in Telltale we trust. I trust it'll be fantastic games, but just make a really awesome experience.